There is a moment that happens for some owners and not others. It does not announce itself. It does not come with any visible change in the animal or any dramatic shift in the relationship. It is quiet and gradual and easy to miss entirely if you do not know what you are looking for. But at some point, for some keepers, the bearded dragon in their enclosure stops treating them as a feature of the environment and starts treating them as something specific, something particular, something that is different from every other stimulus in the world the animal has access to. Not a companion in the mammalian sense, not a friend in the way the word implies shared experience and emotional reciprocity and the neurochemistry of attachment. Something more precise than that, and in some ways more remarkable because it was not given. It was not produced by the evolutionary pressure that shaped dogs into animals that bond with humans almost automatically, that made cats gradually tolerant of proximity, that gave parrots the social architecture to form genuine attachments across species lines. It was built, slowly and without guarantee, by an animal whose biology was not designed for it, out of accumulated experience with one specific person, until that person became categorically different from everyone else. The signs of that categorization are not obvious. They are not the signs most owners look for. They are subtle and behavioral and deeply embedded in the biology of an animal that cannot tell you what it has decided about you. But they are real and they are readable. And knowing what they look like changes the way you see everything your dragon does when you are in the room. Welcome to Reptile Realities. Subscribe before you keep watching, because this channel is about reading your animal accurately, past the easy interpretations and into what the biology is actually telling you. What follows are the 5 signs that a bearded dragon has in the only way its nervous system is built to do it, chosen you. Number 1. Its baseline changes specifically when you enter the room. Every bearded dragon has a resting behavioral state, a default. The posture it holds when nothing in its environment is demanding a response, the level of alertness it maintains when it is not actively basking or feeding or displaying, the quality of stillness it settles into during the middle portions of the day when the enclosure is calm and the stimuli are predictable and nothing is requiring the animal to do anything in particular. This baseline is readable if you observe it consistently. It has a characteristic quality that is specific to your individual animal. What you are looking for is a change in that baseline that is triggered specifically by your entry into the room and not by the entry of other people. A bearded dragon that has developed a specific categorization of you as distinct from the general category of large mammal will show a measurable orienting response when you enter the space. Not necessarily a dramatic one. Not necessarily movement or display or any behavior that reads as obviously social, but a shift. The head that was facing one direction turns toward you. The eyes that were tracking something else realign. The posture that was settled makes a small adjustment in your direction. The animal registers you specifically, not because something large entered the room, but because you entered the room and you are not the same as something large. The test for whether this is genuine individual recognition or generalized large mammal alerting is simple, but requires patience. Observe your dragon's baseline when the room is empty. Observe it when someone else enters, a family member, a friend, anyone the animal has had some exposure to but not consistent daily contact with. Note what changes, then enter yourself and note what changes. A dragon that has genuinely individualized you will show a different response to your entry than to the entry of others. The orienting response will be more immediate, more directed, and more sustained. Not because it is more threatened by you, because you are more known to it than anyone else is, and known things produce a specific kind of attention that unknown things do not. This is the animal's nervous system telling you in the only way it can that it has built a specific internal model of you that is different from its model of everything else. Number 2, it tolerates discomfort from you that it will not tolerate from anyone else. Bearded dragons have thresholds. Every animal does. A threshold is the point at which a stimulus crosses from tolerable into intolerable, from something the nervous system can process without activating the defensive or escape response into something that exceeds that processing capacity and requires a reaction. These thresholds are not fixed. They shift with the animal's overall stress state, with its thermal condition, with the context of the interaction. But they are real and they are measurable in behavior. What changes in an animal that has individualized a specific person is not the threshold itself, but who gets to approach it without triggering a response? Every animal has things it does not like. Handling that is too prolonged, approaches from unfamiliar angles, being picked up when it has not had adequate basking time, being touched on the head when it is not in the mood for it. These things produce responses: withdrawal, beard darkening, postural stiffening, the small pre-display signals that tell an attentive handler to back off. They produce those responses for everyone, except in some animals with some people, they produce those responses less. Not never, not with unlimited tolerance that erases all thresholds entirely, but with a measurably higher threshold for the specific person the animal has categorized as its own. The handling session that would produce a darkened beard from a stranger gets a few extra minutes from you before the signal appears. The head touch that would make the animal pull away from someone else gets accepted from you briefly, before the same withdrawal happens. The pickup from an angle that is not the preferred approach angle produces less resistance when it is your hands than when it are someone else's. This differential threshold is not training in the conventional sense. It is not the animal having learned that you specifically will not hurt it if it tolerates the discomfort. It is something more fundamental than that, a recalibration of the threat assessment that your presence triggers, a downward adjustment of the base threat level that means more tolerance is available before the response threshold is crossed. The animal does not give that recalibration to everyone. It gives it to the person it has decided, through the accumulated weight of experience, is different from everyone else. Watch how your dragon responds to the same interactions performed by you and performed by someone else. The gap between those responses, if a gap exists, is the measure of what has been built. Number 3, it uses you as a safe point when something frightens it. This sign requires the right circumstances to observe, and when you see it for the first time, it is one of the most striking behavioral moments available in the relationship between a keeper and a bearded dragon. Introduce something unfamiliar into your dragon's environment while you are present and holding it, or sitting nearby. A new object, an unusual sound, the approach of an unfamiliar person or animal. Something that registers in the dragon's threat assessment system as a novel stimulus requiring evaluation. Watch what the animal does with its body relative to your body in the moment the novel stimulus is registered. An animal that has not individualized you will treat your presence as irrelevant to its threat response. It will orient toward the novel stimulus and respond to it independently, moving away from it if it seems threatening, displaying at it, or freezing in place. Your body is furniture in this equation. It is a surface the animal happens to be on, not a resource it is drawing on. An animal that has individualized you does something different and immediately recognizable once you know to look for it. It orients toward the threat and then, within seconds, moves toward you, not away from you, toward you. It may press against your body. It may move to your chest or your arm if it is on a surface near you. It may reorient so that you are between it and the novel stimulus. The movement is small and often subtle, but its direction is unmistakable. The animal is using you as a reference point in a threatening situation, moving toward the known and specific rather than away from the novel and uncertain. In mammalian behavioral research, this is called social referencing. An infant looks at a trusted caregiver's face when encountering a novel stimulus to read whether the stimulus is dangerous. A dog returns to its owner's side when something frightening appears. The behavioral architecture differs across species, but the function is the same, using a trusted, specific individual as an anchor when the environment becomes uncertain. Bearded dragons are not social animals in the way that infants and dogs are social animals. They did not evolve the neural hardware for group living that makes social referencing an automatic and sophisticated behavior in mammals. But the rudimentary version of it, the movement of the body toward a known and categorized specific individual when the environment produces a threat signal, is observable in dragons that have developed the kind of individualized relationship we are describing. It is one of the most honest signs available precisely because it happens fast, in response to a genuine threat stimulus before any deliberate behavior is possible. The animal moves toward you before it has time to do anything else. That movement tells you where it has placed you in its model of the world. Number 4. Its recovery time after stress is faster, specifically in your presence. Every handling session produces some degree of physiological activation in a bearded dragon. Even in a well-habituated animal with a genuine low-threat assessment of its handler, the act of being picked up, moved through open space, held above the ground by a large mammal, produces measurable autonomic arousal. The heart rate elevates slightly. The stress hormones tick upward from their resting level. The nervous system is running at a higher activation state than it was before the handling began. Recovery from this activation, the return to resting heart rate and baseline hormone levels, and the behavioral indicators of a calm, settled animal takes time. In a stressed or poorly habituated animal, it can take hours. In a well-habituated animal with good husbandry and consistent gentle handling, it is faster, but it still takes time, and the time it takes is measurable in behavior. The dragon that is still in an elevated activation state sits differently than the dragon that has returned to baseline. It is more alert in the scanning, vigilant way rather than the engaged, curious way. Its color may be slightly different. Its posture holds a subtle tension that the fully recovered animal does not have. What you are looking for is whether your dragon recovers faster, returns to its behavioral baseline more quickly when it is with you specifically versus when it is with someone else or alone after handling. An animal that has genuinely individualized you will show faster behavioral recovery in your presence because your presence is a signal, processed by the same autonomic nervous system that is running the stress response, that the threat level is low. You are the known quantity. The known quantity is less arousing than the unknown. The nervous system receives your presence as information that the situation is safe, and that information actively accelerates the return to baseline in a way that the absence of threat, but also the absence of your specific presence does not. This is subtle and requires consistent observation over many sessions to see clearly. But it is there in animals that have made the individualization we are describing, and it is one of the most physiologically grounded signs on this list because it reflects not just behavior, but the underlying hormonal and autonomic state that behavior is expressing. Number 5. It seeks you out rather than simply tolerating you. Every other sign on this list has been about the quality of the animal's response to your presence when your presence has already been established. This one is different. This one is about initiation, about which direction the contact originates from, and it is the sign that most clearly distinguishes a dragon that has individualized you from a dragon that has simply habituated to you. Habituation is the reduction of a response through repeated exposure. A dragon that has habituated to handling tolerates it better over time because the nervous system has learned that the handling does not result in the harm that the initial threat response was anticipating. The handling gets easier. The stress response diminishes. The animal is easier to work with. This is real and valuable, and it happens in most dragons with consistent and gentle keeping. But it is not the same as what we are describing here. A dragon that has crossed from habituation into individualization does something habituation does not produce. It initiates. When you are near the enclosure and not reaching in, not offering food, not making any approach that would trigger a feeding response or a defensive one, the dragon moves toward you. It comes to the glass on your side. It positions itself at the closest point to where you are. When you open the enclosure without reaching in, it moves toward the opening rather than away from it. When you sit near the tank with your arm resting against the glass, it comes to where your arm is. These are small movements. They do not look from the outside like the dramatic, seeking behavior of a dog or a parrot, but they are oriented and they are directed and they are specifically toward you and not toward other people who occupy the same space. The animal is not going to the glass because the glass is interesting. It is going to the glass because you are on the other side of it and you have become, in the model the animal has built of its world, something worth orienting toward rather than away from. This is as close as a bearded dragon gets to choosing, not choosing in the conscious deliberate sense, choosing in the only sense available to an animal running ancient neural hardware on a nervous system built for a different world entirely. The accumulated weight of every interaction you have had, every feeding, every handling session, every time you entered the room and the animal registered your specific presence and updated its model accordingly, has produced a category in that animal's nervous system where you live. A category that is different from stranger and different from threat and different from irrelevant background stimulus. The category does not have a name in the animal's experience, but in its behavioral expression, in the orienting and the seeking and the differential threshold and the movement toward you when the environment becomes uncertain. It looks like something. It looks like what choosing looks like when the animal doing the choosing is a bearded dragon. You earned it the only way it can be earned, one day at a time, one interaction at a time, without knowing you were earning it and without any guarantee that you would. Now you know what it looks like when you did. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 signs you have seen in your dragon and when you first noticed that something had shifted in the relationship. I want to hear the specific moment, the specific behavior, the thing that made you think something is different here. I read every single one. See you in the next video.